Hi Stampers, I'm Meg from Loven Stamps, and sometimes a card design comes along that you just love and you just have to pull it out every once in a while. And that is the case with this card that we're doing for our needle and thread stamp set from the Occasions catalog. And this feature is actually a layout that I use often with a 3x4 inch piece of designer series paper. Super efficient way to use your designer series paper. But the layout is actually a little bit different because this is an easel card. So when it sits on the table, you can kind of see how that works. When it sits on the table, you have a really fun little display kind of thing, which for a get well soon card, there you can see the greeting on it, would be perfect, right? Who wouldn't want this sitting by their bedside table? So grab your Stamps and Mail Club kit and let me give you some tips for making the most of the needle and thread stamps. So pick our project here from our kit. You can set your directions aside unless you want to follow along. And I'm going to start off with the folding directions for this card. So you're going to, you can just fold without scoring if you want, but if you want the scoring directions, I'm going to use my Simply Scored board, and I'm going to score my cardstock in half at 4 1/4, and then I'm going to cut the card front in half basically, so I'm going to score it at 2 1/8. Okay, so we have our folds there, our scores there. I'm going to fold here in half and then fold the front back. Okay, so this is going to be our card base. And then this piece here is going to layer on the front, and that forms the base of our card, so the framework here. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and layer some pieces. So I have my Needlepoint Designer Series paper. I love this paper. I have to admit that when I first saw it in the catalog, I thought, meh, needlepoint's not my thing, I can pass on this. But my gosh, the designs are absolutely gorgeous in person, so that didn't last very long. I'm going to use my old olive, and I'm going to stamp this stamp here. Now these are the leaves, and they're actually split because they're designed to go on both sides of this die cut flower here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and stamp. I'm going to use my piece of designer series paper layered on Poppy Parade as my framework, and then I'm going to add some leaves so that they'll poke out just kind of on the edges of my card there. Okay, so you can add as many as you like, few or more or whatever. I just want to sort of position them so that they're poking out so that they don't end up just being like little orphan leaves. So that one I'm going to stamp that way, and then I'll kind of do the same thing over here. All right. There we go. So then we have just a few places where the leaves are poking out the sides. And then before I get rid of this, I'm going to go ahead and stamp one more time on my die cut. And the die cuts are done for you for Stamps and Mail Club. They're from the Needlepoint Elements Framelits. There's some really great dies in this set, but this is the one that I used to do the leaves. And when you're stamping on pre-die cut pieces, I find that the easiest thing to do is to stamp upside down. So I'm just going to flip my stamp upside down after I ink it, get my position done there, and then I'm going to use another clear block to squish that down so that I get nice even inking. Okay, so then I'm going to need this for the front of our card. I'm going to switch here to the oh my gosh, Blushing Bride, and ink this one up, and we'll go ahead and position this one. You can go ahead and stamp this direction, or like I said before, you can stamp upside down. Okay, so then we have our flower. And then on our other die cut piece here, and pop out those last couple little hanging chads, I'm going to go ahead and stamp some lines. So I have the dotted line stamp here, and that one I'm going to ink in the Blushing Bride again and stamp right along the top and bottom edge of my die cut. If you're not sure about how wide that get well greeting is, you might be better off to go ahead and stamp the greeting first and then add the lines, but we'll live dangerously here. Okay, so when you mount these stamps, they are a little floppy, so I find that the best strategy is to go ahead and lay them on a flat surface and then pick them up with the block. That way you know you're not getting like a warp in the shape of your image. Okay, and we'll go ahead and stamp our Get Well Soon there. Okay, so now we have the pieces for the front of our card. I'm going to go ahead and assemble them. I'm going to just pop one on each of these corners and add this to our card front. We haven't attached this to our card base yet, so. Okay, this designer series paper is cut specifically to be 3 inches by 4 inches. So it's my favorite size when you're cutting DSP. You can go ahead and use it really efficiently and know that you're making the most out of it. It's a card base. You'll find a ton of ideas for using that on my blog at lovenstamps.com. And I'm going to take another dimensional and put on the flower. And you can see right here, this die cut leaves us a perfect hole, and I'm going to position my flower to go right in the middle there. I love how that's designed. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my greeting, a couple more Stampin' Dimensionals. All right. This is a great dimensional card design, right? Okay, and I'm going to pop this down here. All right, so there's our card front. Now, when you go to add this to your actual card, my recommendation is to use a strong adhesive like tear and tape, and that is going to go here because you don't want this front of your card to pop off all the time, or sadly. You want it to stick on there really well. So remember, push the adhesive down hard, and then it should be pretty easy to get the backing off. If you have trouble with the tear tape coming up, like the adhesive not sticking to the paper, when you're trying to peel the backing, the solution to that is to go ahead and just push harder. All right, I'm going to line this up at the bottom so that I know it's square, and then go ahead and adhere it on top. Do you see how that worked? So we have our zigzag and our card base there. And now it's nice to put a panel here. So we're gonna go ahead and stamp the inside of this. And this gives me a fun reason to talk about these strips. So again, when you're mounting something that's long and flexible, I like to use the method of laying it on the table and then picking it up with a block. And I am going to actually stamp my first flower first. Now, if you haven't seen this tip before, when you really want to get the most texture possible out of this, you're going to go ahead and press the ink down into your ink pad. And you can use a plastic spoon for this. I sometimes just grab a bone folder. And what I'm going to do is press the ink down into the pad so that the ink pad doesn't give up too much ink onto the stamp. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And this is really something that you just need to do on those firm foam pads. Okay, so you can see I get a really gorgeous detailed image there. And then before I do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my stitch lines, and I'm going to butt them up right against the edge of my flower so that I know where to put my next flower. So I'm going to take this now that I know where that's going to go and put it on my next flower. And I'm going to position this so I don't stamp all over the front. You can also put the pad underneath the grid paper so that you don't stamp all over your paper piercing mat. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and add some leaves. So I'll bring back my leaf stamp, and here I'll stick this underneath so we don't have to shift it around so much. When you have your underneath, you just want to be careful and make sure that your cardstock is completely on your mat, because if you're stamping halfway off the edge, you're not going to get the image you're hoping for. All right, so inking up my leaves, go ahead and pop them, and they are designed to fit perfectly as we saw on the card front, so you can stamp them around your flower, and I love that. Just such a clever stamp design. And then if you want to, you can take that little extra leaf with a little more texture, especially if you didn't get it quite lined up like I did there, then you can sort of add some extra fun with this extra little leaf here. Okay, so that gives us a really nice layer to put inside our card. Go ahead and add some snail on the top and bottom of that. And sometimes when people make this easel card design, they'll put like a stopper on this layer here. So you could do that too. If you find that your card is just really happy folded and it wants to fold flat all the time, you could take like a little heart or something, put it on a dimensional, and pop it right here so that when the card tries to close, it gets caught on that little stopper piece. Okay? But there is a very fun way to use your needlepoint, needles and thread, needle and thread stamp set and the Needlepoint Nook materials. And I absolutely love when people see these stamps, they actually think sometimes that they're designer series paper because they're just so detailed, just like the way the designer paper works. So these products are available in the Occasions catalog. You can order them through my website, lovenstamps.com/shop. shop. And you can also order Stamps in the Mail Club kits, which include all the supplies that you need. And that's from me, so you're going to go to lovenstamps.com, Stamps in the Mail Club, to get those pieces. Just look for the links at the top of my website, and you'll be able to find what you need. Any questions, email me anytime. I'm always happy to help you. So thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to sharing more projects with you soon. Happy stamping!